Welcome to Graceful Healing, a podcast to get straight talk about healing and living again. My name is Maureen Lake. I'm a holistic health coach, speaker, author, and thyroid disease fighter. Each week, I'll be bringing you graceful conversations to inspire you to seek new ways to hit the reset button to catapult your health and vitality to new levels. Listen in and open your heart to all the new possibilities. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, friends. This week I have an energizing interview for you to listen to. But before I get to that, I want to mention that you have a fun opportunity to receive a cool gift from Graceful Healing. If your review is selected and read on air, don't miss this chance to win a free prize from a selection of choices. All you need to do is download and review Graceful Healing this week. And hey, thanks from the bottom of my heart. My guest this week is Veronica Parker, a wellness leader, certified Kundalini yoga instructor, and a meditation teacher. 20 years ago, Veronica had an experience with Reiki that helped change the direction of her life. Listening to Veronica's story is empowering and oh so hopeful. You really can do anything you set your mind to. Just like Veronica quoted in our conversation, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Now, Veronica helps women through coaching and workshops that unleash confidence, creativity, and connection so you live life with a purpose. Another cool fact about Veronica, she's the producer and host of Live Your Happy Now, a 5-star podcast on iTunes. I can't wait for you to listen to our interview. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, everybody. Today I have Veronica Parker with us today. She's a wellness leader, a certified Kundalini yoga instructor, and a meditation teacher. I can't wait for you to hear her story. Hi, Veronica.
Hi, Maureen.
Thanks for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I am so excited to be here and be connecting with your listeners today.
It's going to be great. Thank you. I'd like for you just to share your personal story and your journey about how you landed where you are today. Because oftentimes so many people end up, whether you're a yoga instructor or a health coach, whatever it might be, because something personal had happened in your past. So can you share your story with our listeners so that they can better understand your journey?
Sure. I would love to share. I really feel like my story has somewhat of a conscious beginning where I think it kind of started in this lifetime, and then a number of different pivotal points that have really turned my story into something that became more meaningful for me. So I'll start a little bit at the beginning, and that is basically about 20 years ago. I was in a time in my life where I felt lost. I didn't really have a sense of direction. I didn't really know who or what I was. And synchronistically, I had one of my cousins that was visiting me from another country. And she said, hey, I just learned this thing called Reiki. Why don't you lay down and I'll do a hands-on healing Reiki session for you? And I was like, okay. At that point, I really had nothing to lose anyway. So I just lay down on the bed and she placed her hands in different parts of my body. And I started feeling the sense of anxiety or the sadness or the feeling like I just didn't even know where I belong started dissipating. I started feeling a little bit more peaceful inside. And what really amazed me about our session is that she wasn't a cousin that I was really in touch with. She didn't really know about what was going on in my life or so many details about it. But as she was placing her hands in different parts of my body, she started almost channeling all these messages, of what was going on and what directions I might want to consider taking. And I was just completely impressed. I didn't even know where she was pulling this information from,
I bet.
So anyway, so we finished the session, I felt way better than I had, for weeks. And I was like, I don't know, I'm feeling like I need to learn how to do Reiki. I didn't even know what Reiki was before that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I went and this is when the internet was super slow and I was trying to like look up, I was living in North Jersey at the time. I was trying to look for someone that wasn't too far away that I could learn Reiki from. And so I ended up finding this master teacher in New York City. And I just like totally went for it. You know, typically people take anywhere between like 6 months to a year between levels. There are 3 levels in Reiki, and then you can choose to become a master teacher of it. And I just said, you know what, to heck with it. I'm just going to like go all the way in. And so I did like every single level, including becoming a teacher in like 1 week. And it was just, it was crazy, but awesome at the same time. I really feel that it was that little like internal shakeup that I needed to be able to like turn me back within and to begin to give me a sense of direction. I never really thought I would be utilizing something like Reiki, you know, to help other people. At the time, I really did it for me because I needed to receive healing. I needed to figure out who I was and, okay, like, what am I going to do with my life now? So, really long story short, from that point forward, I ended up going into sales and marketing, working for a pharmaceutical company, and then doing like advertising and all kinds of things like that. And then later on, I got married. I got pregnant with my first child. And that's when Reiki came back in the picture. And that's when I felt like, oh, let's start connecting with Reiki again, you know. And when my son was born, my first son, who's almost 16 now, I basically felt that I loved being a mom. I didn't want to go back to my sales and marketing job. So I had to talk with my husband and he was like, okay, no problem. You know, you can stay home and take care of our son. I love that idea. And I loved it. I loved that I was able to be home with him, you know, but at the same time, I felt like I needed something else that was like beyond the role of being a mom. And that's when I dove even deeper into Reiki, and Reiki guided me into other energy healing modalities, into working with angels, into working with theta healing, which is another modality that I train in to help subconscious beliefs of the mind. And, you know, it's been an ongoing journey, but every single modality that I've been certified in, I first did it because I needed to receive something from me. And then I was able to actually turn it around and use it and then create, you know, a holistic healing business of coaching and yoga and meditation, where I help successful women really connect with their inner confidence, their inner creativity to just, you know, get businesses that thrive, you know, and they can also find and create meaningful lives as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. So with your women that you work with, is it to help them grow business-wise, health-wise, all of the above, or whatever they need? Or do you pinpoint specific areas that you target?
It's really whatever they need, you know. For some of my clients, you know, we work on business, but I'm not necessarily giving them like the how to, okay, this is how you grow your Instagram list, or this is how you, you know, we really work on mindset patterns. You know, what are the beliefs? What are the roadblocks that are inside of you? Because it's very, you know, I know as an entrepreneur, you know, many times you think like your business is your business and your personal life is your personal life. But in reality, it's you that is the connection between the two. So if you're having like difficulty processing, you know, let's say like the death of a loved one, of like a parent, you know, when you were young and you're still dealing with those issues now, inevitably it's going to impact not only your relationships, but it's also going to impact the way that you're showing up for business. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, you know, so we are working on business aspects, you know, for entrepreneurial women that want to succeed and have thriving businesses, but we always bring it back to you. You know, what is going on inside of your mind? What is going on with your emotional body? What is going on with your energetic body? How can you strengthen this body temple of yours so that you can be healthy and strong and powerful and really have no fear of becoming visible, of being public and connecting with so many people in business?
That sounds wonderful. I mean, do you do a lot of it one-on-one? Like, does someone come to your office, or can you work your magic via online? I'm just curious about like, if you're can you do Reiki online? I mean, that's one thing I've never really had done with me. So I'm kind of really curious about it.
Yes, everything I do, I mean, 90% of my business actually takes place online. We work through Zoom or FaceTime, and we just connect online. And yes, any of the energy modalities that I've been training, even with yoga, we can do classes wherever you are. It's just through Zoom, where we connect and we can lead a yoga class. So yes, absolutely, because it all comes back to us being like energy and vibration. And all of these energy healing modalities are also energy and vibration. So you don't need to be in the same like physical space with someone in order to help them heal and transform. You can be thousands of miles away, and energy is energy. Energy can be shifted, energy can be transformed, energy can completely be changed. And as we change it, the patterns within you begin to change as well. So yeah, we can do everything online.
That's fascinating. It really is.
Yeah.
Gosh. So tell me how, I mean, I know you have this whole progression from Reiki and then things that came about in your own life that you felt like you needed to learn more of. So how did you get into Kundalini yoga and why that type of yoga? I'm just curious.
Sure. So, let me just give a little, because some of your listeners might not be familiar with Kundalini yoga, because it's definitely an up and coming, and so many more people are learning about it and are actually practicing it. But many people still don't know what it is. So just to give you a little brief explanation. So Kundalini yoga is the yoga of awareness, So everything we do in Kundalini yoga, which is typically breathing exercises, chanting mantras, meditations, as well as the asanas, which are the poses that are typically linked together in something that's called a kriya. And then every kriya has a desire, objective, or result. And there's tons of kriyas in Kundalini yoga. So you have kriyas to help you elevate your mood. You have kriyas to help you increase vitality. You have kriyas to help you strengthen your immune system or your nervous system, And basically, during a yoga class, or even beyond a yoga class, if you want to just do like a meditation, you listen to specific mantras. And there's so many Kundalini yoga artists that are just incredible. The way they chant, the way they sing their music and the words and everything really activates like a different level of your mind. It really seeps to your subconscious mind, which is where we tend to hold all the limiting beliefs and subconscious patterns, so it begins to really shift you from the inside out. And so to actually answer your question now, about like 6 or 7 years ago, I began to listen to this incredible artist. Her name is Sanatam Kaur, and her music was just amazing. Have you ever heard of her?
I have, and it is like beyond this earth, really, to listen to her. It's amazing. Yeah.
She's just incredible, And so I started listening to her music and really getting into chanting the mantras. And I'd be doing things in my house, like the laundry or the dishes, or actually playing it first thing in the morning as I was getting my children ready for school. That was the way that I was starting my day with them, so that the music will begin to shift the vibrations around us. And I listen, I would follow her, and all of a sudden I figure out that she was doing a special workshop at this Kundalini Yoga festival. But at the time I didn't know it was Kundalini Yoga. I just thought it was like, sort of like a retreat thing that's called Satnam Fest. And she was going to be there and she was going to do a special workshop for 2 days. And this was probably about like 4 or 5 years ago. And I said, oh my God, I have to go. I just felt so guided to go and be part of her workshop. And so I did. I went, I was part of her workshop. And in this workshop, she taught us a very long mantra to bring miracles and healing into your life. So the first part of the workshop, she was actually telling us, literally how to chant every single word, because typically mantras in Kundalini Yoga are done in another language, and the language is Gurumukhi, So she was really explaining to us the meaning of the words and how we can actually pronounce them. So we went through like this entire page mantra to bring miracles, and really connecting with the energy of one of the big gurus. His name is Guru Ramdas. He's like the guru of healing and miracles. And so you would do this for the first day, you go to sleep super early that night, and then you had to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then over 300 people were coming together into this room to do a very light yoga practice and then to chant this mantra as a way of meditating together for 2.5 hours.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Now, mind you, before going there, the longest I had literally sat down in meditation, because I had been meditating for like 15 years, but the longest I had ever done with any kind of meditation was 30 minutes. Okay. But somehow, I don't know, it was like that fire inside that was really like pushing me and propelling me to be like, okay, we got to do this. We're going to do it. So I got one of my friends to come with me. We did her workshop. We went to sleep. We were so excited at night. Like we actually stayed up until like midnight. And then like 3 hours later, we have to wake up and go to this like big room after showering and getting all ready. And we did this mantra for 2.5 hours. I don't know. It was a miracle that I literally sat up and I chanted the entire time. I don't even know how that happened, but it did. And when we finished, I don't know. First of all, I felt like I was transported into another galaxy. And then I came back and all the things that I wasn't liking about myself or my life were almost like magically erased. I felt so uplifted, so changed, so good. And then, we knew that there was a festival that came right after it for like 3 days, but we had prior commitments, so we couldn't stay. But there was a yoga class that happened right after, the big 2.5 hour meditation that we were doing. So my friend and I said, okay, why don't we just stay for this one yoga class? And then we drive back home, because we had like a 4-hour drive home. So we stayed for this yoga class, which, by the way, this was Kundalini yoga. But before this time, I had no idea that there was such a thing as Kundalini yoga connected to all the mantras and meditations. And we did this class, which, by the way, totally kicked our butt, because the first exercise we had to do was we had to like keep our arms up in the air while we were doing this thing called breath of fire for 11 minutes. And I seriously put my arms down like 20 times because I couldn't handle it. I was like not able to do it at all, just so you know. But I kept on like coming back and trying to finish. So we went back home, and then in every meditation I would do by myself, because then she said, okay, continue with this mantra for 40 days because it will completely like change your life. And I did the mantra for 40 days. And that's when I really felt like, what is this thing, Kundalini yoga? I started Googling it. I started seeing like, okay, this is what it is. This is how it's connected. And then I knew like a very famous teacher was going to be teaching teacher training in New York, like 9 months later. And I don't know, I literally like just put in my request to the universe, and I said, okay, I know I have 3 kids and I have a business and I have this crazy hectic life at home, but if it's possible at all for me to show up and do teacher training and be there for 1 week in a month for 9 months, I really would love to do this, And well, fast forward to when I had to like sign up for it after having a talk with my husband, and he said he would support me in taking care of the kids when I wasn't here. And I was able to do it. And I not only signing up, but then showing up, once a month for 9 months and really completing the training, which also was life-changing.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Wow. The thing that's so amazing is a lot of times we get these intuitions or gut feelings or tugs or whatever you want to call them from somewhere outside of ourselves, but a lot of us don't act on it. And you did. And look, all the gifts that you've learned along the way that now you know so well and can share with other people because that you listened. It's really, it's just so great. It's amazing what you've done in 20 years. And I didn't even know, this is how limited my thought patterns were 20 years ago. I probably had never even heard of Reiki back then. And to me, it's something that I've only heard about maybe within the past 10 years because of just where I was in my life and my other profession. So just to think that even 20 years ago, you were learning something that to me is fairly new, even though I know it's been around forever, but I just find that fascinating. It's like a great thing that you've done with your life. It really is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I totally believe there's this thing called divine timing and divine right order. And And in other words, a little translation of it, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you need something in your life, the resources show up to show you the way. How can you unlock this new door? How can you even remember that the door was never locked to begin with, and you can simply like just turn the handle a different way and just move through that door and a whole new universe opens up for you.
Exactly. It's just so beautiful. And also kudos to your husband that he was able to work it out too, so that you could take this time away, especially a year-long study program with the yoga. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to him, and that was such a great way to feel like really supported by him and my children being okay with it too, and not only that, but even like coming home after being away for like 3 or 4 days in New York, and then everything was like clean in the kitchen. It was like, because our teacher was Gurumukh, and I don't know if anyone that's listening who might know her. She's like a 75-year-old woman. She is known as like the queen of Kundalini yoga. She studied directly with Yogi Bhajan, who was the master that brought Kundalini yoga to the US. So studying with her was such an honor, but I remember during one of our first weekends of teacher training, she said, listen, when you go home, you need to remember that you need to thank everybody that made it possible for you to be here. If you see like the laundry that wasn't done, don't get crazy, don't get angry. If you see a pile of dishes in the sink, don't be like going berserk about it, Everybody that made it possible for you to be here, you need to show, open up your heart and like be grateful, because you wouldn't have been able to be part of this training if it wasn't for them. So I took that advice to heart, and then I came home, and then to my surprise, things were done. Like my home actually like functioned when I wasn't here,
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the biggest gift. It was like, oh, this is incredible.
Oh, I bet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that that you wish other people knew that could help them along their journey to heal? I mean, you know so much about different modalities, but if my listener has some kind of chronic illness that they've either battled already and want to continue to stay well, or on that journey of finding wellness, are there a couple of things you could share that maybe they could really explore that could really help them with their own journey?
Yes, absolutely. So many of them probably already know this, but for me, it makes sense to just bring it up to the surface one more time. And that is that no matter what kind of illness or diagnosis you've been dealing with, or you've been like told, by a certain physician or doctor, please know that your body is so wise. It brings not only as many years as you've been born, of wisdom, but it also has the wisdom of all your ancestors and everyone that came even before them. And so it has the ability to heal. It absolutely can change whatever is going on inside of you. So don't give up hope. Believe that it can be done. And as Yogi Bhajan says, keep up and you'll be kept up. There are so many things that you can bring forth, whether it's a little more self-care or moments of stillness, silence, and meditation, or really just being compassionate with yourself on whatever it is that you're going through, and just know that your body has the ability to heal, and this too shall pass. And there will be a time when you're going to look back and be actually grateful for having gone through what you've gone through. That is like one of my biggest pieces of advice, and that, sometimes in the new agey, like spiritual, holistic healing community, we have a tendency to place some shame or blame, for maybe a part of ourselves, like almost like co-creating a condition, but I just would invite you to have like kindness and compassion for yourself and not get caught up in the shame and blame game, because it really doesn't do anything to help you, with whatever you are at this time. So just trust that it's almost like not important why it was created. What's most important is that that there is a doorway that is present within yourself that can actually unlock so many more possibilities and a whole brand new way of like being, does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. That's so beautiful. And I mean, it relates to me so well, because if I hadn't had the chronic illness that I have and had learned, gosh, I wouldn't be where I am today at all. I often call it like a gift that fell in my lap and opened up so many other doors too, not necessarily the modalities that you're speaking of, but other ones that I can share with people as well. And I wouldn't have started this podcast. I wouldn't have written my book. I mean, there's all these different things that you connect back to why. And
yes.
And not to really question the why, but to take it from, okay, now I have this, so what can I do with it? I can share it, I can moan or groan, I can be proactive, or I can be depressed. You have all these different choices of a path that you might want to take. And that's what I just love about my interview with you, is because you give so much hope. I mean, I just love it. It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to share with you a couple of my stories about, because I know what it feels like to be given a diagnosis that feels like, oh my God, I just can't believe this is what I've been given. So I want to share with you one quick story, and that is when I have 3 children. I told you about my oldest, that's almost 16. And then I have a daughter that's 13, and my little guy is 11. So after giving birth to Gavin, my 11-year-old, 4 weeks later, my sister was coming to visit us from New York, and it was Mother's Day weekend. And I was feeling a little bit out of sorts, which, if any of you listening, you're moms and you've given birth, that's kind of how you feel, because you're not getting sleep, you're constantly nursing, you're just like, don't even know which end is up, especially if you also have other children in the picture as well that you're taking care of, right?
Sure.
And so I had a lot of issues when I was younger with my left leg, that's another whole illness, but I'm not going to get into that. And so typically after giving birth, my left leg would normally feel tight and weird because there's a lot of stuff that was happening with it. But this time felt a little bit more along those lines, but I wasn't really listening to my body. I wasn't paying attention because I had so much to do. I had to take care of this little guy. I had to take care of my other kids. I had to keep up with my house. There were so many things to be done. And so my sister comes and she's like, I don't know, something's a little off. Are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm just really tired. My leg feels super stiff. I just need a little time to rest. Maybe I'll go get a massage or something. And at this point, it's like my leg is getting a little bigger, a little black and bluish. It's becoming more difficult to walk. And she's like, okay, listen, if you're not willing to go to a doctor, she was in pharmaceutical sales at the time. And she's like, at least talk to one of my doctors over the phone. He's like an infectious disease doctor, and just tell him your symptoms and see what he says. Okay. So I'm like, all right, fine. I feel kind of defeated. I'm like, all right, I'll talk to him. So I talk to him on the phone. I tell him my symptoms. And then 2 seconds later, he just says, well, from what you're telling me, it doesn't look like you have a puncture. You don't have a fever. It doesn't seem like it's an infection. But you know what? It could be a blood clot, because it's very typical on women, either when they're pregnant or after they give birth, because of the hormones and all this other stuff. So the minute he said blood clot, I have also a background in science. So I knew this isn't something that you mess around with. This is something you need to at least get checked out. So thankfully I had my mom here too. She took care of my newborn. She brought him, with us to the hospital. I had my dad here. My dad took care of my other 2 kids. And then my sister, my husband, my mom, my baby, and we went to the hospital. After waiting for 5 hours in the emergency room, I go in, they check it out, and it was a blood clot. And it was a blood clot that wasn't just a tiny little thing, because they did a scan, and it was actually the entire length of my left leg. That's how big it had gotten. Okay. So I already believed in angels before this, but I certainly believe in angels so much more after an event like this, because, any little piece of it could have broken itself off and traveled to my heart, God forbid, to my brain. And really, I wouldn't even be here telling you the story, but so I'm in the hospital, they basically, I have to stay there for a week, in order for the clot to dissolve. They give me, heparin, intravenous, and a bunch of other stuff. And, this is when everything that I was trained in, this is when all the tools come in handy, because this is when you can shift your mind and you can be like, no matter how dire circumstances, no matter how horrible it seems, you can have a positive mind and you can think outside the limiting lines that even sometimes Western medicine, strengthens them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I do believe that there can be a very good balance between Western medicine and Eastern medicine, but we also need to strengthen our mind and our body to know that, hey, we have this ability to heal and to change things around. And so that's the reason I'm telling you a story. And also so that you know that no matter how many people you're taking care of in your life, if you have children, if you have grandkids, if you have a significant other, if you have a household, if you have a business, the most important person that you need to take care of is yourself. Because, when you're in that place that it's almost life or death, like I was, where a crazy doctor in the emergency room literally looks me up in the face and says, "Oh, you're lucky you didn't croak." That's when your whole world just begins to be like, "Oh, wow." So basically, if I don't put myself first and take care of myself, I might not be here for my children. I might not be here for my business. I may not be here for everyone that I love, And that's when the whole paradigm begins to shift and you begin to realize that taking care of yourself, it's the most selfless act that you can do.
Totally agree. Wow. Thank gosh, like your sister was there and got you to talk to that doctor. I mean, like you said, a little piece of your blood clot could have broken off and, oh gosh, that's just terrible, even to think about it. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think that happened with me as well. When I was dealt the hand that I was dealt, I could have gone one direction, but something kept on nudging me into another direction, and I listened, and it's just amazing where it can go. So,
yeah, definitely. I think listening to our bodies, it's so important. Listening to the guidance that's coming from a higher place, but it's still within you, it's so important. And just like we said in the beginning of our conversation today, is then actually taking inspired action on what the messages are, because we can spend all day, receiving divine guidance and information and what to do. But if we're not actually going to actually take even a tiny little step in the direction of that guidance, then, what's the point of it?
Right. And you'll just never know where you might end up.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful and beautiful conversation. I can't thank you enough. I always end each interview with just this one last question. So I'm going to ask you as well. Can you give like one little piece of advice if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self? What would that piece of advice be?
That's a great question. I love it. I think the piece of advice would be to trust myself, to let go of the questioning, of the worry, of the doubt, even when you feel like you're not fitting in, even when you feel like you're not belonging, even when you feel that you're so different from everyone else around you. Just, trust yourself, listen to that inner wisdom that is so incredible. And it's again beyond like your lifetime's years, to just listen to that voice that's so wise and just tune within, because you have all the answers. You have everything you need inside of you. So just listen to it, tune within, and trust it.
That's so beautiful. What great advice. I wish I had that advice when I was younger.
Oh,
yeah, it's beautiful. So finally, let me just ask you, what would you like to share with, how can my listeners find you if they want to get more information or learn more about your program? What's the best way to contact you?
Thank you. Couple of ways. You can find me on Instagram at Live Your Happy Now. By the way, this is also the name of my podcast. You can look it up on iTunes or Stitcher. It's called Live Your Happy Now, Conversations to Open Up and Live an Authentic, Happy, and Fulfilled Life. You can also come on over to my website. I have a special treat for you. I actually have a meditation that I recorded for you to help you let go of those fears, worry, and doubt, and really activate the power of trust within you. And so that link is veronicaparker44.com. veronica.com/trust. So you can receive this free guided meditation and also become part of my newsletter link. I send a newsletter every 2 to 3 weeks. So I tell you about all my programs and all the webinars and live Facebook events. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Veronica Parker _44. And I'm available for one-on-one sessions. I also have a new mentorship group that I'm starting in January, and it's called Miracle Mindset Mentorship. And I'm working with successful women to help you really up-level your game so that you can feel completely fulfilled in your business and in your life.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Gosh, thanks for sharing that. And I'll make sure that all of that is in my show notes so people can just have a direct link if they want to link to any of your programs or your social media. Get on your email list. Perfect. Well, thank you. Oh, you bet. Thank you, Veronica. It's been wonderful having you as a guest.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maureen, for having me as a guest. It's been a total pleasure. I wish you the best, and I look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me today. This episode is brought to you by my book, The Graceful Advocate, Taking Control of Your Life After a Diagnosis of Thyroid Disease. You can find it currently on Amazon. I love it because my friends call it a purse book. They keep it with them when they go to the pharmacy, grocery store, or even to the doctor's office. It's a great little guide to keep you on track and informed. I can't wait for next week when I get to see you back on the pod. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you so much. If you ever need someone to chat with about your healing journey, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me through my website at maureenlake.com.